Hello, we are here on the Sticks Out podcast, number 7, with Kate Riegle Van West. Did I say that right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Oh man, what a big question. I'm a person who found the circus at a young age and totally loved it. Because I was a pretty athletic kid. I didn't like competing, so I was like, oh man, the circus is everything. So I fell in love with that from a young age. I did circus and music and art and all sorts of stuff, which is how I came to poi in circus in the U.S. And yeah, then I just realized poi is awesome. It feels really good. I didn't know why it felt so good or what it was doing, but I just loved the way that it felt. So at some point, it occurred to me that maybe there was some really like good health benefits from poi. It seemed obvious from what I felt and people that I had taught. So I then went on a journey to scientifically prove if there were health benefits, or at least try to start that process. So that brought me to New Zealand. I basically just skipped over my whole life. Like I was born in this town called Normal, and then I lived in Chicago, and then I lived in Boston. I ran an archaeology program at Harvard, and I did all this other stuff. And then I made it to New Zealand because I figured you want to hear about the poi part.
So wait,
fast forwarded?
Wait, are you an American?
I'm American.
Oh, okay. So you first picked up poi, say, in Boston? Is that the first place you saw it? Who was the first person that introduced you to this art form, or where did you sort of see it first? Or
yeah, in my hometown in Normal, Illinois, there's this guy named Zach Stevens, a really good friend of mine. He was doing poi in the circus, not as an act actually. He was just practicing. We were in a circus together, and he was just practicing poi at circus practice, like on the side. And I saw him doing it. I didn't actually try it for a while because I was busy like doing trapeze and other cool stuff. But eventually I did try it. I really liked it, and then I became like obsessed with it actually. And so he taught me everything that he knew. He was basically my only teacher for a long time because this was a long time ago. This was like 15 years ago, so it wasn't so much YouTube culture. So I was really learning everything from him, which was great.
So let's go through your journey a little bit. So before we get to your current state, so where in Boston did you have the idea to maybe continue research in poi while you were in Boston? And also, was there some kind of an event like that catalyzed your love of it, or?
Yeah, so I was in my hometown until I was 20, so I did a lot of poi there, and we had a little performance troupe. Well, I don't even remember the name. Oh, the Wicked Wicks, I think. Oh my gosh, I haven't thought in a long time. So it was me and this guy Zach who taught me, and two of Zach's neighbors. So we would do like fire from like haunted houses. Oh, that's why it's so loud in here. I have a dehumidifier on. Hold on. And it just turned off, and it was like such peace when it turned off. So yeah, we were doing that stuff in my hometown, and then I moved to Chicago to do a master's degree. So like straight when I moved to Chicago, I was like, I want to keep doing this poi thing. So I remember I bought this I went to like this weird shop that was closing down, and I bought a rack where I could hang poi on that folded up so I could fit it in my bicycle. And I bought a bunch of socks from like joyofsocks.com and filled them with rice or whatever. And I like rode my bike downtown Chicago, like one of my first days in the city. And I set up this rack with this sign that was like poi for sale. And I was going to give like teach, and it was a total disaster. Like nobody stopped. It was so tiring. Like I'd never busked on my own before doing poi. So I was giving like everything I had every second. It was completely exhausting. So that was like the moment I landed in Chicago. But I kept following that, so I was mainly thinking I might perform with poi. So I was doing some fire stuff, and then people asked where they could learn. So then I started teaching, and that's when I started to realize just how powerful it was, because everyone I was teaching was telling me stories about poi and how good it felt, you know?
So what was like a story you heard in the States prior to your departure from the States that like got you like what kind of benefits were you hearing about poi? Like what? I mean, I don't know a ton about what you do, so it's just kind of nice. Like what what type of health benefits did you find the most intriguing to pursue as
Yeah.
evidence?
So so in Chicago, I ended up opening a center for flow arts and poi. I had a storefront space. So that's where I really started teaching and hearing a lot. Because before that, I was just like teaching in my random living room, like with my roommates, and it was like a little bit cramped. Yeah. So then so I was going to grad school this whole time as well and doing this on the side. So I heard a lot of things. Like it was almost like I became an accidental therapist because people are coming to me for poi lessons, but they were doing the poi lessons because something was going on in their life. So like people would come and say, "Oh, I'm just going through a divorce or something," and when I spin poi, I'm able to just not think about it and relax.
Mm-hmm.
Or people who are sitting down all day doing office jobs, they would come take a lesson on the weekend and then say, "Oh man, like my back, my posture feels so much better after I do poi." People were just falling in love with it. Like all different types of people came to do lessons. But I didn't go straight to New Zealand. So at the time I was doing my master's degree and running this poi center on the side. And my master's degree was in digital art and media. And so I finally realized maybe I could do something with poi in the school. So I made this video where I tracked the trails of the poi. Like now you can do that in real time. Like back in the day, I used After Effects. So I did that as like a school project, and it was people were intrigued, so I was like, maybe I can keep doing poi in academia. Like, that's interesting. But I didn't start off with the health stuff because I was studying art and digital media stuff. So I started off with poi as a musical instrument. So I made the orbitar. So I embedded accelerometers and gyroscopes in poi, and then it was sending data to a computer about, it didn't know much. It knew where it was in its orbit and how fast it was going.
And I remember the orbitar because that's, I remember Natan did some kind of orbitar act in the Flow Show in New York. You probably can find that video. It's pretty long. I don't know if it's interesting to watch now just to see that. But, and I also, just thinking back, I think did you take a workshop I taught in Chicago, or was that Boston? Is that how we?
Maybe.
It feels like an upstairs of a crusty building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds.
Oh, was that you?
That was me. It was me and Jordan, and I don't know. It's crazy. I feel bad that I can't even remember, but I feel like that sounds. Elliot prepared it, and I don't.
Yeah.
So,
at the orphanage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at that thing. That was that was tech poi. That was a new world for me. I was like, oh my gosh, what is all this? I don't know how to do that.
Well, let's not talk about me or us, but let's go back to you. So I'm thinking that so back to the poi thing. So I'm just recap. I think it's really cool that a lot of artists or poi artists come from art backgrounds, which is pretty neat because it seems as if the work you do now is significantly contrasted. So maybe you could kind of discuss what type of work do you do now. And we see a lot. I think a lot of people see what you do on the internet, but I think sometimes it's almost potentially too scholarly for them. It seems scholarly, but what, in a nutshell, what exactly are you doing these days, and what type of research are you a part of?
Yeah, so the reason I switched over to studying health and poi is because when I was working on that musical instrument, I was having trouble finding funding and getting momentum and stuff. And I just thought, man, I see the power of this, and I know other people do too. But it's not the people who have the money and are in the positions to help me make this grow. Not that I care about money, but I just envisioned orbitars everywhere and all this stuff, and I was feeling a bit stuck. So I thought, okay, if I could prove, because I was also trying to bring poi places to hospitals and rehab centers. I was in Boston by this time, and yeah, they want evidence-based programs. They don't want some random person with no qualifications come in with a sock and be like, "This is good for people. I swear, I know my personal experience." So yeah, I just thought, okay, if I could sort of do some scientific research with poi and health, maybe that would lay a foundation for all of these other endeavors that I'm interested in, and maybe open the door for a lot of other flow artists around the world, for them to be able to say, actually, this has proven to be good physically and cognitively. So that's what I decided to do. I don't have any background in health.
Mm.
None whatsoever. I'm an artist. So
Right.
I started applying to PhD programs. I actually applied for 6 PhD programs when I was working on the Orbitar to keep doing poetry and music, and I got rejected from all of them. So I took 3 years off. I was working at Harvard and doing other stuff. And then I came back to the idea. I was like, academia is just a good place to do research. Like, I don't really care about academia. I don't want to stay there. I don't want to be a teacher or something, but they have the resources and people with the knowledge. So I thought it would make sense. And the credibility, you need research to come out somewhere.
So what school are you at in New Zealand?
University of Auckland.
University of Auckland. And so what types of, just to give us, maybe one of your more successful, I don't know if there's unsuccessful ones, but research projects have you conducted? I know some of them.
I just did one project, it's my PhD, so I'm a doctor now, hooray!
Right.
And I just did a large-scale clinical trial with healthy older adults, so people over 60, learning poi or tai chi. They did it for 1 month, and before and after that, I tested them on physical, cognitive, and emotional well-being. It was a little more complicated than that, but basically that's what happened.
Well, let's just get into it. I'm a science teacher, so I'm curious. So how did you assess their improvement in these areas of cognitive function and physical function? Like, what were the measures there?
Yeah, so I cast my net pretty wide because it was the first study, so I had quite a lot of tests. And, okay, so, for physical tests, it was things like this grip strength, both your pinch grip and your, hand grip, the range of motion in your upper limb, so, shoulder, elbow, wrist, lower body strength, which was measured, these are older people, remember, so, sitting and standing from a chair as many times as you can in 30 seconds. Hand, dexterity, the 9-hole peg test, where you take little pegs and you have to put them into holes as fast as you can.
Right.
And cognitive was the whole battery of tests. They were all on a computer, so it was measuring things like people's reaction time, their memory, so, it would do short-term memory and long-term, so, it would show them a list of words, and then they'd see all these words that they were supposed to remember, and then they'd see a longer list of words, and they had to pick out the ones that they had just seen, and then 30 minutes later they had to do it again.
Okay.
Their cognitive flexibility, and then emotional. I did interviews, I had questionnaires, and then I also had the SF-36, which is a standardized questionnaire for health and well-being and quality of life for older people. Is that specifically for older people? I'm not sure. Might just be general. No, I can't remember. Yeah, so basically, first I had to, establish a baseline. This is really boring. I never talk about this, but how it actually worked. I had to, establish a baseline because you need to know if the results were due to the poi or something else or what. So, they had to do those tests twice, 1 month apart, without doing any poi or anything. Because if someone improved the second time, then maybe it was because they got better at the test or something else is going on. So we needed to make a stable baseline. So 2 rounds of the exact same test at the start. Another one I included just for poi was bimanual coordination, which is the coordination between your hands. Because I figure what's poi? Oh man! So that's a little. It's they had to draw circles, synchronously or asynchronously, and switch things and
timing and directions of circle drawing. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. So what, if you were to give 3 takeaways you got from that study, that, I always feel funny talking about research because I understand that, the takeaways can be twisted to the way that you want to convey I'm not saying you're doing that, but that's something that does happen with results. But what are 3 takeaways that you could draw, whether related to age, gender, function, whatever, just did you get out of that?
Yeah. Well, I guess first takeaway, I'll just say the results, what the science said. It shows significant improvements in grip strength, which is great because that's an indicator of overall health. And balance, which is really also amazing for older adults, and sustained attention, so the ability to sustain your attention over time. So those were the statistically significant results. Takeaways from my end of things. teaching poi to older adults is interesting. I had never done that before, so I developed like a lot of skills in that area, and also just always keeping in mind like it's about the process. I was just reminded of that all throughout the study. Like
Right.
it's not about achieving a trick or being able to do the weave or whatever, right? It's just about the experience of doing poi. Having fun, having a laugh at yourself, challenging yourself.
Did you teach them in a group setting or in one-on-one? So I'm thinking of the study now, but was it one-on-one communication or was it like group?
They were in small groups, so there is a social aspect as well, which is true of all research. Anytime someone's getting individual or group attention from the people administering the study, from their peers, whatever, there's always that aspect of research that is hard to separate out.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's
that.
That's amazing. So what's so you're how many years are you into your PhD too, or are you almost done?
Done?
You're done.
Yeah.
So now you're just a
I'm
research
Dr.
fellow.
Riegle Van West.
Wait, what's your doctorate in?
Huh?
What's your doctorate again?
Oh, I guess like movement science. I guess I don't know. It's just I work between the Center for Brain Research and the dance department, so it's kind of complicated.
Wow.
So yeah, it took me 3 years. So I did a PhD as quick as you can. I submitted 3 years to the day because I wanted to get it out there. Like plus I didn't have any funding, so I couldn't afford to carry on because I have in massive debt.
But you did get the Fund the Floor Arts funding. Is that true?
Yeah, that's $1,000. So that was awesome.
Yay! You know what? I'm just you know.
I mean, I've some small stuff here and there. My research cost $20,000, and that's not including my own tuition, which is quite expensive. So just the study itself cost $20,000 to pay the staff, to pay for the cognitive tests. There's a lot of fees that people don't think about. And my study was pretty like as low budget as it could be.
Right.
Like 20,000 is probably not a lot for like a large clinical trial. I don't know if it was large. I had 80 people, but about 100 something to start with.
All right, so let's mix up this question because let's go to flow because I'm just gonna ask. So are you like I'm gonna do the bomb question. What is your thoughts on flow personally? Like, and what does it mean to you personally? And do you see it as a benefit? I'll just start there.
Yeah, I think I try to find flow. I'm drawn to things where I can get into that state. So, like, for me, like, most people think, like, poi is, like, my life's work and it's everything. Like, man, I like so many other things, too. I just thought, like, oh, let's follow this poi thing because I think I can really help. But, I mean, same with music and same with drawing and same with doing acrobatics and same with everything. Like, for me, I'm a process person. Like, I don't care as much about the end result, so I just love being in the moment, in the zone, like all of the things that flow does to you. That's really fun for me and really exciting for me. So I seek that stuff out like all the time.
So do you think flow is like being in the moment? Is that what you would classify flow for you as? Is sort of like, is it like a letting go? Is it like where does that exist for you?
Yeah, I think it's in the time that you're in the moment, enjoying the moment, not focused on any kind of end goal or purpose. You're just sort of in the zone, totally focused, present. Yeah.
Do you need prerequisites to reach that state for you? I'm just like you know. So for example, I was just thinking like I've been thinking a lot about like what gets you to the like if you believe flow is a sort of open-ended activity that where you're drawing together a body of knowledge of your body and whatever you're doing, like what gets you there for you? Like how do you get to that place?
Yeah, it has to be a good mix of things. Like it can't be something too hard or too easy because then you're like bored with it or it's too challenging or whatever. So it has to be like the right level of challenge. It has to be something that you find fun. Otherwise you're just not going to be enjoying it and then you can't get there either. But it also has to be like, I guess that goes along with the challenge level. Like it has to be really engaging to you. Like otherwise you'll just like check out. So I mean that shifts for me all the time. And as soon as you know, something that what I couldn't get into that state with initially because maybe I'm learning, so it's really hard. Like I will be able to later, but then it becomes boring, and then it So it's like it's always shifting for me how to get there, what it is. It's not like I seek it out. It's not like every day I'm like, how am I going to get in the flow state? I just like do things that I enjoy, and then I often get there.
Did any of your research students, I was like, this is where it's going, like get into I don't know, I'm just envisioning some of your, the people in your research study getting, I don't know, is there like one of the individuals rocking out? Like, did you see any flow state happening in your studies or people getting much into that?
Yeah, I mean, so I thought a lot when I was designing that study about actually measuring flow state, and there was a survey for that. But ultimately, I decided not to because for older adults, that is not of so much importance. I was looking to measure things about quality of life for them, and flow state is not really like super important thing for older adults. Sort of that's discussed in the literature. Maybe it is. I don't know. I went with the more standard things like balance.
Right.
But in terms of the way I was teaching them, it was interesting because maybe it was due to just like my teaching, but they weren't really getting in the flow state because I think I was constantly challenging them, maybe too much. So they were always just working on learning. And like there was time to just enjoy the movements, but it wasn't like I was creating an atmosphere for flow because I was constantly like talking at them and talking with them and being like, okay, maybe you need to try this. Because what I was really like thinking about for my studies, like I really want to see results, like physical, cognitive results. Like I want these people to improve. Okay. So I really want to keep them challenged and keep them learning. And so it was less like, oh, let's just like put the music on and, just like feel what we're doing, and more like, oh, you just got that move. Okay, the next step.
Right. Yeah, no, it's actually, that's an interesting thing to think. I didn't think about that, but wanting to see results from your assessment, necessitating maybe you ensuring that they actually are practicing these fine motor skills. I had the interview with a couple times ago that just made me think about is like one person was saying that the flow state doesn't exist for her because she thinks that knowing choreography, knowing what's coming is actually where she experiences it most, like in an organized sort of way, sort of like an actor can find nuances of how things work if they know their lines better kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then another person, Baxter, was talking about how the flow state is something where like he does a thing where he blindfolds his students at one point and like rocks out to sort of encourage that ability to sort of like feel open in that time. And I was just thinking about how that's like interesting that there's so many different perspectives, and that flow is something that, especially with props, because you have to have a skill level of entry, like I think you were saying before, that to even access that, it's just kind of a cool topic for me. I like to poke it.
Yeah, I thought people might get there, and then I realized pretty quick during my study, like, it was taking, this is an age thing. Like, it takes older people like a lot longer to learn, right? So they didn't have, like, that base level, like you were just saying. Like, they didn't have that foundation for, like, a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, you could get into a flow just spinning a point in a circle. Like, you don't have to know how to do much. But also, like, in my mind, I thought they'd get to this place where they would be able to sort of flow between the moves that I had taught them and have that creativity to just do whatever they felt was next. And they only practiced twice a week for 1 month. So that might sound like a lot, but I guess, like, for older people, and the level of learning is quite a bit slower.
Right.
We didn't really reach that place. Like, when I wrote out the lesson plans ahead of time, that was supposed to be the end. Where it's like, okay, we've learned all these moves, now we're just going to, like, make up whatever you want, like, put them together. And I would try stuff like that, and they would be like, what do you want me to do? Can you just tell me exactly?
Right, no.
I was like, okay.
Well, like, that's the interesting part is, like, I was thinking, like, there could be, again, I've just been thinking about some of the other interviews I had where, like, maybe there is an educational difference that would occur with all those things if it were taught in a way where, like, the openness of the success of them, I don't know, it's actually interesting. That's where a lot of gripes come with how certain people teach. If they teach via this way where everything's okay, they don't learn good technique, they don't learn, how to do it right. While at the same time, if you're given that sort of open sort of playing field, you can be who you are more, maybe for some people, right? Like it's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely always try to teach because I teach a lot like outside of the study too. I always try to teach to the individual, and you could kind of tell straight away. Like I gave this was so awesome. I gave this workshop to a group of lawyers the other day, and there was this woman in the back that was just like doing her thing. Like I was like teaching like a pretty structured lesson, and she was in the back like there was music playing, and she was just listening to the music and just like her employer were just like doing whatever, and it was like so awesome. And I just wanted her to like be in that bubble and like do that thing. So I always just try to look out for like who wants structure, who doesn't, who's learning fast, who's going slower, and just try to teach generally and then kind of go around and you know.
So what's next? What's next for you? So you graduated, studies done. Are you working on a book? Do you have another study you're ramping up? Or are you gonna maybe change careers? I don't know. Like just what's next?
Yeah. So I recently had a change of plans. I was thinking of doing another study on people with mild cognitive impairment, which is usually what happens before you get dementia. Not always, but often. I was going to do that in Vancouver. There's a neuroscientist there who wanted to work with me. But we couldn't find the funding, and I didn't get this big grant that I was applying for. So I real quick decided to switch gears because I had already wrapped up everything in New Zealand thinking I was going to do that. So I had quit. Like I was teaching at the university and all this stuff, and I was done. So instead of like just starting up my random jobs again, I decided to start my own business, like doing toy health stuff, and see if I could make that run. So it's been just a couple months now. It's been totally wild. So I'm now in the weird world of business. So I've had some like offers from investors, which I've ended up turning down.
So wait, stop. Like, what is your business? Tell me.
So right now, because my research was with older people, right now I'm focusing on poi and aged care. And so I'm working with some aged care facilities in New Zealand to develop poi programs, which basically in the end will be training their staff. Because they usually don't have the money to have someone like me or some poi expert or whatever coming in all the time, right? So what they need is for their staff to feel comfortable doing poi themselves and comfortable teaching poi to the people who live there, to their residents. And I was working with all levels of care. So, like, I did a 1-month trial working with people with dementia, people in hospital, people in rest home, and also healthy people. So just trying to find out what works for these different populations and then trying to find out how to help these staff, how to enable them to do this. Because a lot of times what happens with this staff is, like, someone comes in once for 5 minutes and says, this is Tai Chi. And then, they're expected to teach Tai Chi. And then they don't feel confident and then they don't do it. So I'm trying to develop resources for them, online resources plus my training or whatever that can help them so that they can do poi and their residents can do poi. And it's awesome. So that's like one thread that I'm currently doing right now that I'm working on. But like, I just did older adults for my study because it made sense with like the boom in the aging population. I thought it'd be a really great place to start. I have no like particular love of older people. I mean, older people are great, but like before that, I'd only worked with kids. So like my vision is pretty broad. Like I can imagine doing poi with a lot of different demographics in a lot of different ways. So I'm just starting with the aged care thing because I just did research on aged care, so now we have evidence. So now I can bring it to these. This is like the whole plan. So now I can bring it to these places and say, yes, this is an evidence-based program, and then maybe that will launch me to be able to do other stuff, like go back to the Orbitar, making music and poi. Like that would be great, or bigger projects.
Yeah. Actually, I got two interesting thoughts. So I work at a school. I mean, people know the podcast know I'm a teacher. But I work at a school, and I take them to the Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania, which is like a research facility. They just built this massive building, and they have a lot of VR stuff. I was just thinking about this. VR stuff for children with autism that helps train them in varying circumstances. And some of that VR stuff is actually starting to be tethered to, like, motion. Like literally, it's like this crazy thing where if they see their hands doing the motion, maybe they understand how the motion works better since it's not there. It's kind of like a wild thing, but I was just thinking like maybe there's also some of that, like poi can help on that end, maybe helping gain greater sort of like occupational therapy type stuff, or if like
Absolutely.
writing skills for like I worked in schools where kids can't write, and that like
Yeah.
severely affects motivation. It's usually boys, unfortunately, boys, and they can't. Basically, their success in their handwriting, people pooping on their handwriting, basically is
Mhm.
like a direct line downwards with their success. And just thinking about so many other areas where you can probably help, and that's friggin' awesome. I got a real good one.
Mhm.
This question's really good. So you're in frickin' New Zealand, right? Like poi was
Yeah.
made there. So like, tell me about some of the connections that maybe you've had or your studies have had to the people of New Zealand and like the Maori and like how that works out. Because I think that is kind of trippy. That maybe it's New Zealand is why you could do that study there. I don't know, but I'm just like why people had more motivation for it. But like, yeah, what kind of connections to Maori people have you had, like with your experience in New Zealand or with your studies?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I wanted to come here was because of that. Like, Poi started here with the Maori, and so I wanted to be here. Like, I could have done this study in the U.S. So I can you still hear me?
Yeah,
It feels like quiet.
yeah, I'm
Okay,
here.
so I landed here in New Zealand as an outsider doing Poi, and let me tell you, it was a rocky start. It was a little bit of like, uh, who are you? We didn't ask you to come here and like study our thing. So it was like a bit of a tricky start. And also, people in New Zealand most people don't know that poi exists outside of Maori poi, and they don't see what we do. They don't see fire poi and flow arts and any of that stuff. They don't see that as poi. So when you say poi in New Zealand, people are thinking Maori poi. They're thinking kapahaka, which is Maori performing arts, period. So there was a lot of confusion at the beginning when I said I'm studying poi, and then people thought I was studying Maori poi, which always goes with singing and stepping, and is part of like Maori culture, and it's this huge thing. So, oh no, I'm just studying a weight on a cord, like spinning that around, like people do all over the world. People say, what are you talking about? So I had to real quick become clear about that stuff, and that's been really interesting because there's no term, like everyone calls it poi, and poi is the Maori word. Like it means ball on a cord.
Mm-hmm.
So you say poi in the U.S. and it means one thing, and you say poi in New Zealand, and there's no way to like differentiate. Like everything we do is called poi, whether it's like contact poi or anyway, it's confusing. So yeah, it got off to like a really interesting start, and I've been here 3.5 years now, and the whole time that I've been here, I've just been trying to forge these connections because it takes time, and there's no replacement for time when it comes to connecting with Maori. They have no reason to trust you. They've been taken advantage of a lot in the past, especially me, just as a total outsider. So you have to gain that trust. And so I just spent a lot of time having conversations, explaining what I'm doing, just being open to listening, to understanding. It's been totally fascinating. And I'm also learning like how to do kapahaka as well. So we learn. So I know, like, Maori poi is so different. It's like I have no advantage. Like, I've done poi for 15 years, and I'm like the worst at Maori poi. It's just totally different movements. Like everything about it is different. The poi is light. It's like bouncing off of your arm. Like the wrist movements are different. You're like stepping and singing. Like it's completely different.
Are you
So
in
I'm
like a
like,
class? Are you taking like a
yeah,
class? Okay.
yeah. So even though I've graduated, so I had a Maori advisor at the University of Auckland, and he teaches kapahaka classes at the university, which is amazing. I take a university class where people practice poi. It's so cool. Well, actually, I taught a university class and I made people practice poi, so that was cool too. But this is so, it like blows my mind. You get there and everyone's like before class just like has their poi out. It's like, yes, this is so great. But it's mostly people who have had experience doing kapahaka before, like maybe in high school or when they were kids or whatever. So I'm like way behind, and they know Te Reo, which is like the Maori language. So I'm behind on that too. So that's exciting. It's fun to be a beginner though. It's fun to be the worst in the class because then it makes me work hard.
So what's the hardest part about Maori poi? Like, so we've all seen the video, like YouTube videos, maybe of they make it's a percussive thing. It seems to some extent, and it seems
Yeah, I mean, people think it's easy because they see these videos, these like huge groups of people from far away on a stage, and they're all moving together, and it's like, oh man, they're not even doing the 3 beat weave. Like it's so easy, let me tell you right now, shit is not easy. Like, I can show you, like, part of a poi routine is complex. They change the way the poi flies and the way they change planes and the way they coordinate their body and how fast it's moving is, like, very hard. Like, I would challenge any poi spinner out there to do these, like, poi routines that I'm learning. They would find it hard. I would like to change the, like, perception of that. Not that it matters if it's hard, but I feel like, yeah, this poi gets a lot of slack. Like, oh, they're not even doing anything. But it's not about that anyway. For them, it's way more than that. Like, every action, they call it actions, not moves. So, like, every move or every action, like, has a meaning. It represents part of their culture. It's telling a story. And you're singing that story as you're doing the poi, and you're unified with the people around you, and it's really powerful.
So what does the poi itself represent in Maori culture? I know it's going to go. I don't really like. What is it? Like, is it? Yeah, I'm just curious. Is it just like an instrument? Is it like what is the backstory of a poi?
There's some it's the history is not really written down, so it's complicated. So we think it started out, from what I understand, two ways. One was like training for the men, like for strength and dexterity for the men who were fighting. But the other was it actually was in this like house of entertainment, and the women did it. And there's a lot of early accounts like women actually sitting down doing poi together. So it was actually also just for fun, like it was a game, just for amusement, like when it started out. And then that kind of shifted, like during some of the wars, poi actually became like a political messenger. So like poi songs and stuff would be used as a way to communicate to the masses. And then also like when tourism started, it shifted again because people realized, oh, the tourists really enjoy watching this, and we can make the poi to sell and all this stuff. So they still preserved the origins, but it became sort of a thing for tourists. And then now it just perseveres in Kabahaka, and there's huge competitions. So like when it's competition time, you'll see the high school students like on the bus with their poi, and you'll see poi there. It's really cool. Like I can walk down the street again doing poi, which is so awesome because like when I was in the U.S., like it's a bit hard. Like here it's really safe, especially like as a woman, like it's super awesome, and people know what poi is, so it's like no one's gonna harass me if I'm just like out doing poi, which is really fun.
Is it like? But I mean, you have like a steezy poi, right? It's not like maybe I'm like making a brash or something. It seems like it's usually like a plastic bag wrapped around like with a string or something, right? So yeah.
You want to see some samples?
Sure.
So like traditional ones would be like this, nice plaiting. But then like you could get these ones are like my favorite ones. They're sparkly, and this is a super long one. So you play long poi like different. They have something where they do with a single long poi, and it's like a rope dart motion where you throw it out and pull it in again. And that's like a totally different style. So there's like single long poi, double long poi, double short poi.
Are they rocking the 3 poi?
They do 3 poi, they do 4 poi. Yeah.
Is like
Hell
one-handed butterfly? I think I've seen some of this. Do they do that? Like how do they rock 4 poi?
Yeah. They do like butterflies, like behind the head, throw, catch, all this stuff. Like the routine I'm learning has throws and catches and stuff where it wraps around your hand and switches planes and moves really fast, and yeah, it's cool.
Are you gonna like be a part of like a whole thing? Is there like a recital coming up or something?
Yeah, it would just be like my university. Cause it's quite hard as an outsider. Like since moving here, I was like, I want to get involved in this, but it's pretty tough. Like you can't just like join a Kabahaka group who's like a professional group, or like a performing group. So
how do you spell the word?
Recital.
How do you Kabahaka? How do you spell that?
Kapahaka.
And so like, is it? I'm gonna ask a random question. Is it like? Do you have to be Maori to do it, like in the schools, or is it like even the Caucasian or white students do it, or is it more like I was just thinking about this because like Irish dance could be something you'd consider like that usually it's Irish kids for the most part, or is it something that sort of pervaded all culture, or just for the Maori still, or?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really know. Like, you tend to not see many outsiders, like, when you're looking on the stage. You can tell most people are Maori, but I don't really know how it works. Like, if you were in high school, if you, you could probably join the Kapahaga group there if you weren't Maori. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Okay.
But primarily Maori.
Interesting. So, like, wow, this is great. This is going pretty good. So, I was just thinking of other questions, but do you have any questions for me? I just figured I would go for that. This is like the new little section. I asked, do you have any questions for me? So I'm happy to answer any as well. But I have more, like a couple more for about 5-10 more minutes. But do you have any questions for me about what I do? Because I figured I'd add this.
Well, what's next for you? Like, what are you excited about working on at the moment?
Well, I'm working on a board game, just sitting right here. It's like cards in there and stuff, and I have some art that I'm working with this artist. Have that. I'm actually a middle school science teacher, so right now I am engaged in that. I run the Flow Arts Institute, which is something I really enjoy, and reforming that every year. It's not like it stays the same ever. We have 7 events, and then we do the fire safety. We have those 10 free safety lessons online. We're starting the consent campaign in the past year, which has been quite a handful. But for me overall, like in my life, you know, I still like practicing. Just came back from a Gang rehearsal, and that's been fun. But yeah, for me, that's kind of what I've been doing. And now I'm just trying to stay. I'm 36 years old, so I'm just trying to stay committed and engaged to something, right? Like I it's lucky that I work in a school, so I get to see a lot of children that basically, you know, that vibe of a kid picking up anything and putting it down 10 minutes later is something that I'd like to continue to have. And I think a lot of people kind of knock that, but I think being a learner, that's kind of what that means, you know? You're like, I'm going to try this thing. Maybe I get into it, put the yo-yo aside, walk away. Oh, I'm going to try this thing. And I think that that's something, at least for me right now, I'm trying to like foster that with the activities in my life, is try to, you know, not learn from my age where I'm not just going full board in an activity till I burn myself out and I never want to do it again, and also like barely do it. So I've kind of been finding this thing where I have a wide variety of activities that I enjoy, and then I'll do some modular origami, or I'm like knitting again, or I'm like, you know, into this like plant thing, or I'm into, you know, whatever. So I'm just trying to like pace out the enjoyable things in my life, I guess. So yeah. So are you coming back to the States? Are you gonna come to some of the U.S. fests and maybe teach a workshop on what you've done, or do you have any ideas, or maybe go to the Big Burn and set up a sandwich board, or?
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm kind of trying to look for how to leave New Zealand at the moment. Like, I don't want to stay. Like, I'm ready to leave, but I also need a reason to leave. Like, I don't want to just move randomly. So I guess I'm hoping to try to use the stuff that I'm doing with the aged care to, like, try to pitch that to other places. Like, and it would be fun to live somewhere else, like, that's not the U.S. right now. Because, politically, but also, like, moving to New Zealand was such an amazing experience. And so it would be cool to live in another country. Like, I'm just excited about that. So it's a very transition-y time. It's very up in the air. We're kind of trying to see how things pan out here with, like, the business poi stuff, and then maybe use that as a model, and maybe Europe somewhere, Canada, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
but it's definitely time to be closer. Like, New Zealand's amazing, but I'm so far away from everybody, like my family, my friends, like Flow community. I mean, there's a community here, but like just to travel from New Zealand is insane. Like, it's so expensive and takes so long. So, like, I just need to be closer to everything.
Do you hang out with those Blingling brothers? You know those guys?
No, who are they?
You should look them up online. Blingling Brothers. They're a juggling group out of I think they're out of Auckland. They're like, they do basketball juggling. They're
cool.
They've come to the States, actually. They came to IJA, the International Jugglers Association event, a couple times. But okay, well, I think it's time for you to grab your cat, and then we can say goodbye. And
he's in my loft bed. All right, we're going up here.
Yeah, grab him. This is something I've been doing at the end of these recently. It's animal harassment, basically.
He's asleep.
Is he? He's a yellow guy, isn't he? Is he a boy?
Yeah.
Hey, Wake up, cat. Oh my goodness, look at that. Oh my gosh.
We might just leave him. He's very peaceful.
Wait, what's his name?
Spider.
Why is that?
I've had Spider for like 13, 14 years, and when I got him, I lived in a basement, and there was a lot of spiders. I didn't think I was keeping him, and he kept catching and eating all the spiders, and I was so thankful. So I was like, "Oh, you're my little like spider catcher! Like it's so awesome!" I thought I was taking him. I didn't think I was gonna keep him. He was just like a stray, and then I kept him, and then that was his name. So that's Spider.
So what's
Holding
the
his
name of
head.
what's the name of your business again?
Um.
Can we find it online? Can anybody?
Yeah. I'm Spinpoi on everything. Spinpoi.com, Spinpoi, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Patreon, whatever. And my Poi Health stuff might have a different name, but I'm not ready to disclose that information yet.
So wait, what has been released about before we go? What has been released from your studies? Like I've seen some articles. Everything's out.
Everything. The data, videos, pictures, documentaries, news stories, articles, everything.
And where do we all find that? Is that spinpoi.com as well?
Yeah, you can find it there on my social media. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I hope you come to the States. I could easily, I guess I can just commit you. Come to any FAI event for free. You should come. You've done nice things, and, not going to say anything in particular, but I knew you got that grant. And also, we can talk offline about that. Yeah, I think that I just really appreciate talking to you, and it's very rare that you have somebody like yourself, especially a woman too. I think that's like kind of like a sign of just like a better, like you're the only person I know that's taken at least Poi to academia. I have some friends working on occupational therapy with props, but I really think that that's an amazing endeavor, and I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and I know that, and also working out the time with me, because I know it's challenging to plan anything, like,
yeah.
So, any last words before we go? But stay on. Don't.
Okay. No, thanks. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out.
Anytime.
And, I look forward to listening to more of your podcasts.
Yeah, it's only $1 a month. I don't know. I'm not really pushing it very hard, but
I'm not pushing mine either. So yeah, I understand.
All right. So I'm gonna bye. As I press
Bye.
stop. Don't.